Once your network access gets out into the world, it can be difficult to protect your home network from intrusion. This can happen, for example, when people drop by. You may provide them the password so that they can check something on their smartphone or show off vacation photos that they have stored in the cloud. Before long, a lot of people will know your network password, and people can connect to your network at any time. This is the Digital Prepper, and today I'll be talking about some simple but important tasks that you can use to prepare by improving the security of your home network. Before we get started, I just want to remind you guys that if you do like the video and want to discuss anything regarding digital preparedness or just preparedness in general, be sure to help get this video out to more potential preppers by leaving a like, commenting, and subscribing to see more like this. With that being said, let's get started. Before we talk about securing your home network, I think it's very important to explain the difference between a modem and a router. The tips that I will be explaining here will mostly be talking about your router. Sometimes your internet service provider will give you one box that acts as both a modem and a router, but they are still very different technologies. A modem is a box that essentially connects your home network to the wider internet. This device simply provides you with connection to the internet. A router, on the other hand, is a box that lets all of your wired and wireless devices use that internet connection at once. What it also allows you to do is allow your devices to communicate to one another without even using the internet, such as accessing your home network drives from your computer, for example. One of the first things that we should look at is making a complicated router password, as well as limiting access to it. Everyone worries that they won't be able to remember a password, and so most of them just set them up as a string of numbers, such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example. However, difficult passwords that are impossible to remember are good for system security. You may want to give the network password to other members of your family and close friends, and even relatives that visit regularly. However, you can't control who they might give that password to. Making a complicated password just makes it harder to communicate, and it's also impossible to guess by bad actors. Make life a little harder for those trying to access your network password by using a string of random characters. A network password needs to be at least 12 to 20 characters long and include upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. Do remember that there are ways to look up a password that has already been set up in any computer's operating system. It's just that not many people know about that utility. This brings us to the second point, which is limiting access to your network password. It's responsible enough to give access to the network to people like your children or other immediate family members, and even your friends. With that being said, you should not feel obligated to give out your password to anyone. For any router that you purchase, you can access the console or administrative settings of your router from any device that's connected to the network. Most manufacturers do set up the administrator account on routers with the same username and password for every piece of equipment they sell. Now, this is a different password than the one used to connect to the network. This one grants you control over the network configuration. With that being said, anyone that may know what kind of router you have can connect to your router by simply Googling the router's default login credentials, which makes you vulnerable to bad actors. If someone does get into the admin console, they can change the password and lock you out, as well as potentially gaining access to your network, which could include any devices connected to that network. Just like the network password, be sure to change that password to a string of random characters, A network password needs to be 12 to 20 characters long and include upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. It's also extremely important that this password is not the same password than your network password or any other password that you use. Related to the password, while you're in the administrative settings, there's something else that you should take a look at as well. When you set up a router for the first time, it will ask you to input a name for your network. This is known as the Service Set Identifier, or SSID. Just like the password on your router, often a manufacturer will install the exact same administration software on all of their router models. That consistency makes life easy for hackers. When you're changing the SSID, there's not much to it. Just change the SSID so it doesn't give away the router brand or model. I also would not choose an identifier that includes things like your name, address, telephone number, or any other personal information. Moving on, I would also avoid naming your network after any sort of political statements or offensive language, and definitely don't provoke hackers with challenges in your SSID. Just make it something bland. Now that this is done, you actually have another option with your SSID, and that's having the ability to hide it. If you block your router from sending out its SSID, your home network becomes a hidden network. Any devices that have already connected to the network will not lose the ability to connect to it, so your home devices won't be affected by this. But any other passerby devices will not be able to see your SSID, and therefore will not be able to connect to your network. You can temporarily turn on the SSID to connect any new devices to it as well, and once it's connected, you can just make the name hidden again. You should be able to find either the manual for your particular router, or do a quick Google search for your brand of router to be able to find the information to do this. Most routers should update the firmware on the device automatically. However, you should also regularly check your router for updates, or check the manufacturer's website for any updates to your particular router. Depending on the model, your router might even have the ability to schedule updates every week, month, or just when the firmware update comes out. Another potential trigger for you to actually go and check for firmware updates should be any news stories that speak about major virus events. Sometimes hackers will find security exploits that force the manufacturers to first check through their device's firmware code to make sure that their equipment is not vulnerable to this new potential attack. If it is, they will issue a security patch that you will then be able to install to your device. Over 90% of the world's online population connects through a router firewall daily, many of them without even realizing it, as some routers' firewalls may be automatically enabled on installation. Hackers are known for trying to find vulnerabilities within router firewalls, but if they are set up correctly, they are normally very secure. Take a moment to browse through your router's administrative settings to make sure that your firewall is turned on. Again, this should be in the manual for your router, or you could do a quick Google search for your brand of router to be able to find the instructions to do this. Another option to look for while turning on your firewall is also turning on Network Access Translation, or NAT. What this means in simple terms is that each device on your network is allocated an address that only is known to the router. It does not represent you out on the internet like an IP address. Instead, the router also has its own internet address book that communicates with the outside online world. A fortunate benefit to enabling NAT on your network is that it prevents outsiders from identifying the IP addresses on individual devices on your network, as unsolicited traffic is blocked before it even ever reaches your devices. Finally, something simple that you may have even overlooked is that if you're going on vacation and won't even be needing your home network for a few weeks, like for example, if you don't need to connect to your home network through a VPN, you may want to think about just turning off your router. Hackers can't work their way through your network when it isn't on. Not only will turning off your router help to reduce security risks, but if you unplug it, you can also prevent it from being damaged by any power surges. To wrap things up, news headlines about ransomware, cyber attacks from other countries like Russia and China, and even identity theft are worrying. The thought that someone can intrude into your network feels a little more like the threat of being attacked in your own home. As I've shown through this video, you don't have to be a technical expert in order to improve the security of your home network. You just need to be a little more smarter in your habits and start now to prepare your network just like you would prepare your home by keeping it physically secure. Simple solutions to security problems are usually the best. The majority of these suggestions are just common sense tips that anyone can take. Even the more complicated ideas, such as hiding the network SSID, only require you to explore the options in your router and do a little bit more research. If you liked the video, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to get more videos like this that will help you with your digital preparedness. If you have any ideas for more videos or just want to share your experiences with prepping, please leave a comment down below. Stay safe, stay prepared, more digital prepping to come.